Hello, and welcome back to Jollyroger Hobbies for part 2 of our Intro to Model Building. In this segment, I'm going to go over your basic minimum required tools, some recommended tools, and some really handy tools that are not needed, but they really make model building easier. All that and more coming to you in 40 seconds or less. Here on my channel, I do videos on general hobbies, which include model building, RC aircraft, planes, helicopters, etc., video games like Star Citizen, photography, geocaching, anything to do with aviation, and I also do product reviews. I put links to items that I showcase in my videos in the description, so be sure to check that out. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll see when I upload a new video. Also, feel free to ask questions in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer. And feel free to converse with one another, but please do it in a respectful way. Okay, so you've decided you want to try your hand at model building, but what tools do you need? Now, here I'm going to go over the basic required tools that you're going to need for your first model. Now, please do not be intimidated by what you see on the table, because you do not need all of this. This is strictly for demonstrative purposes. The first thing you're going to need, first and foremost, is a good knife. This is what's called a hobby knife, or Xacto is the brand name. This is the number one thing you're going to need. What this is used for is the parts will come on what's called a sprue, or also known as a parts tree. And this is where the molded plastic comes on. You will need to have the knife to be able to cut it off the tree. But that's not all, and that's not the only way to cut this off the tree, and I will get to that later on in the video. For now, you'll use the knife to cut it off, and what's most important is you'll have bits of plastic left over, and so you'll take your knife and you'll be able to cut that off so it's nice and smooth. And any flashing. What is flashing, you might ask? Well, if you look right here, you see all this extra little plastic that's all over this tree? What that is that's the molding plastic left over from the molding process. And a lot of times you'll get that on parts, and you're going to want to be able to clean that off. And that's what a good hobby knife will do. Now, there are different types of hobby knives. This handle is a larger handle. This is called a number 2. This red handled is a number 5, and there is a smaller handled one which is a number 1. Unfortunately, I do not have a number 1 with me, and I apologize for that. I have decided in my life I like the number 2 because I have bigger hands, and the number 2 fits my hand and I can control the knife better. The number 1 is good for people with smaller hands, and my father actually prefers a number 1 knife over a number 2. He thinks the number 2 is too big for him. I prefer the number 2. Then, of course, you have the number 5, which usually is a plastic handle, but sometimes you'll find it in wood and metal. I personally think this is too big. I can't manipulate it as well. But for the heavier duty stuff, this does work, which is why I have it around. Second thing you're going to need is extra blades. All these handles are replaceable. Now, you can buy the cheap plastic Testors brand or some other hobby knives for your first knife if you want, but the problem with that is you get a plastic handle and a knife blade that is not changeable. So when that dulls or you break it, you have to go out and buy another knife. I suggest buying a kit, and I'm going to link that in the description down below, that comes with a number 1, a number 5, and number 1, a number 2, and a number 5 handle, along with an assortment of blades. Furthermore, like I said, you'd always want extra blades. The most dangerous knife is a dull knife. And so you want to have extra blades. Now this is an extra set of number 2 blades for my handle. The number 1 knife uses number 11 blades. The number 2 handle uses number 2 blades. And the number 5 uses number 5 blades. Don't ask me why they came up with that numbering. I don't know. This comes with 5 different separate blades. And this can be had for like $2 or $3. So you can buy this handle by itself for a couple bucks and extra blades for a couple bucks more. Or you can buy the cheap plastic one for like $5. I don't see the point in that. And this set that I'm linking in the description is going to have everything for around 20 bucks and a nice carrying case. That's my recommendation. Next thing you're going to need is a pair of tweezers. The reason for this is a lot of the model kits have small parts and you're going to have to manipulate them. And sometimes our fingers are just too big to do that. That's where the tweezers come in. They'll help you put things together, glue things, and even hold things if you need to paint them. So this is a must. And this is just a standard pair of tweezers that you would get in your local store at makeup section, where you get your fingernail clippers, everywhere else. In fact, I have 2 or 3 of these around. I recommend those. The next thing you're going to need is a file. And that, again, is to file off some of that parts where you want to smooth things down. Sometimes the parts don't fit right, and you need to file off just a little bit of plastic material. That's where the files come in. Now, you can buy these, which are basically, they're sanding sticks / files, and they come in different grits. This is a coarse grit, this is a medium grit, and this is a fine grit. This was a great idea until I started using them. Then I found out it's a solid piece of plastic with some coarser material on the surface of it glued on. And as soon as you rub that down, that area's gone and it's over with, and you throw this away. This entire assortment pack cost me $7. That's trash. I'll never buy these again. My personal opinion. I picked up a set of these. These are standard and these are cheap. And I'm going to link these in the description. But you don't need expensive tools to do this. Now this is a metal file with a plastic handle. And this set comes with round files, half round, flat, and all different types here. Whatever you're going to need. And a nice little plastic carrying case. This whole set is between $5 and $10. Yeah, I'd go for that. Now, the next thing you're going to do, if you get past a skill 1, something that is not a snap together, and even if you get a snap together and you want to glue it, what you're going to need is glue. Now, there are 3 types of glue. There is the standard original tube glue. This is what's been out for, well, as long as plastic models have been out. So we're talking probably 60 plus years. And then there's the liquid cement. Now, the first thing I want to tell you, glue isn't exactly what it sounds like. When you hear of glue, that means it literally glues 2 pieces together, as in like you're talking like a paper paste. It pastes 2 pieces of paper together. That is not what model glue is. Now, as I mentioned in the first video, most plastic models are exactly that. They're plastic made out of polystyrene. So what this glue is this is a solvent. And when you put it on the model, it softens the edges and literally melts the two pieces together, creating a bond. They become one. And that's why they end up being so strong. Now, the three types, these tube glues are a gel type thing, only they're a very liquefied gel. Not straight liquid, but they are a gel. This is what the standard beginners use and what I've used my entire building career. It comes in two different forms. This blue bottle is a non-toxic and actually has kind of a sweet smell to it. But you're going to pay for this non-toxicity. It's a great idea, but the cure time with this is 50% more than with this. Now, this has fumes that come off of it. It's toxic. And personally, I'm not quite sure exactly how non-toxic this is, because I'm pretty sure if you eat it, you're going to get sick. Second of all, it says on it, caution, combustible. Well, if it's combustible, that's still toxic in my opinion. So, I used this once when I was a kid, and I haven't touched the stuff since. This is what I've been using pretty much my entire life up until this year. And the problem with this is you pull the cap off, and as soon as a brand new tube, it's going to come just oozing out everywhere. The problem with this is you're going to end up using too much. So you end up taking a toothpick or something and try and put it on the part so you use it sparingly. You do not need a lot of this. And unfortunately, that's what the beginner always does, is they think a lot is better. And then you get it everywhere. It tends to leave strings, so you're always picking strings off. Dealt with that my whole life and hated it. Well, in comes a new product. Now, this isn't brand new, but it is brand new to me. I just discovered it. This is a liquid cement. And that's exactly what the other two are, is a solvent. But this little neat thing, now it's liquid, but it comes with a nylon brush on the tip there. And so you can literally brush the glue on. No toothpicks needed. And it is so much easier. And the set time is faster. Now, with any glue whatsoever, whether the tube glues, especially the tube glues, you want to set for 24 hours or more before you try and mess with the pieces or do anything else. This liquid cement, which is better and sets up faster, I am used to doing the 24 hours, so I set it at that. And even though I do it with this now, I'll still let it sit for roughly 24 hours before using it. Now, those are your basic tools that you absolutely need. Now, if you decide to paint your model, then we get into something a little bit more. So first and foremost, you're going to need a paint. What type of paint do you use? Well, there are two different types of paint. There is water-based paint, like your acrylics, and there are oil-based paints, like your enamels. I've used enamels my entire life. They're my favorite thing to use. Acrylics, a lot of beginners are starting to use, and acrylics have become a lot more popular over the last 10 to 15 years. When I first started, enamels were everything. And so that's why I got used to using it and why I've been using it my whole life. The only difference between the two is what they're based on. So acrylics are a water wash up and they're a lot easier to use. However, I have noticed that they're also thinner. So when you're brushing it on, sometimes you need multiple coats and you have to watch bubbles. It's just something you have to be aware of. Enamel paints, you don't really have to watch the bubbles so much, and the enamel paints are thick paints, so you need less. And so when you brush them on, you just got to be careful and realize that less is more, not the other way around. These are not water wash up. So when you got to clean your brushes, you need a thinning agent. If you use an acrylic, water is your thinning agent, and that's how you clean your brushes, and yourself if you get it. Oil-based enamel paints require a special thinner made to clean that up. And you can buy them in these little bottles, or even bigger bottles. And what you do is after you're done, then you brush off your excess paint off your brush and set it in your bottle and let it sit for a minute or two. Then you pull it out and clean it off. What do you use to clean it off? Now, you're going to laugh at me, but there are two things. I keep toilet paper and paper towels around with me. The paper towels are helpful to get the extra paint off. Because they're nice big ridges. After I dip them in the thinner and let it thin out, I use the toilet paper to wrap around my brushes and pull them through. The reason for that is the toilet paper is a lot more absorbent, so it's going to absorb a lot of that thinner, and it's softer and able to clean the individual bristles of the paintbrush. Now, there are hundreds of different types of paint out there, and like I said, acrylic has become a lot more popular, but enamel is still the clear winner in the amount of shades of paint. There are probably over 100 different shades of paint, which you'll have to go to your local hobby store, or you can even look online for. But they come in, I'm not even going to go through them. They come in so many different shades, you are going to be blown away of what kind of shades they come on with. Second of all, with the paint, and this goes for acrylic or enamel, there are two different types. There's what's called flat or matte, and there is gloss. Gloss is what gives that shiny sheen. This tabletop is gloss. Matte color, which I don't have anything right here in front of me to show you a matte color, except for, I don't know, maybe my shirt. That's a matte, as in it doesn't shine. So usually on the bottle it'll be labeled like this. Black by testers is flat enamel, which means when this dries it'll be flat, not gloss. This red is also a flat. And this dark green FS Model Master, that's a flat as well. I should have put some gloss paint up here, but I didn't think of it. A lot of times it'll say gloss enamel on it, or sometimes it doesn't at all. Now, the most common that we know of is testers, but Model Master has also got a whole brand out. And Model Master is actually a subsidiary of testers. Then there are a bunch of other brands of paint out there. Vallejo, there's too many that I can even name. The other type of paint you're going to have is your spray paint. You're going to use this on like your car bodies, your big areas. Spray paint, as any other spray paint, puts out massive amounts of paint. So you got to be very careful how you apply it and where you use it. This also comes in flat and gloss. So you need to pay attention to the label. And of course, then we have your brushes. That's how you apply your paint. Now you can buy a cheap Tester's nylon brush as your beginner brush if you choose to. But personally, these are almost useless. And they're expensive. They're $4 or $5 for one. Or, and this is what I suggest, you buy yourself a set of artist brushes. The one thing you have to be careful with is you have to make sure that they are going to be able to handle the type of paint you're using. If you're just doing acrylic paints, it'll say acrylic or water-based paints. But if you choose to use enamels, make sure that your brushes will handle oil-based paints. If they say oil-based, then they work on enamels. Now you can get a set of cheap artist brushes for $5 or $6, sometimes up to $10. And you get a multitude of different sizes. You get some really big ones, and you get some fine detail ones. And this is going to work for your very small areas. You can't do that with the cheap Tester's brush. That's why these are so important. And I've linked some down in the description for you.